Hi everybody, I am your host Alad, and today I'm reporting to you from Manchester, New Hampshire at a Trump rally. Beside me there are many Trump supporters, but then right next to them, outside the arena here, there are many anti-Trump protesters. Let's go talk to some people, see what's going on. We're out here today in Manchester, New Hampshire. Behind you, Trump's about to have his rally. Beside us, adjacent to us, we have many anti-Trump protesters. Your sign says, stand up against racism, bigotry, and hate speech. You have the American flag. You also have a pin over here. It says, I stand with Planned Parenthood. Tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here.
Just being a young person in my early 30s, standing up for what I believe in. Protesting is an American right. It's been a pastime. It's my right to be out here and protesting and expressing my opinions and beliefs. And so I'm out here standing up to, I believe is just, a right-wing fascist leader in America. And I lean pretty hard to the left. I'm out here supporting my fellow liberals and just trying to get my voice heard.
I know in 2016, Trump lost New Hampshire by half a percentage point. How are you guys going to consolidate power here and really make it such that he wins in 2020 again?
Well, hopefully, I don't think a lot of young voters got out and cared as much as they should. I don't think a lot of the liberal voters really particularly liked the candidates that were available to them, which...
you said you leaned left. Did you end up voting for Hillary Clinton even though it felt like Bernie Sanders kind of got screwed?
I did. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I voted for Hillary. Yeah. Actually, no, I had an absentee ballot that was torn up by Trump supporters out.
Interesting. I think that's actually very illegal.
Yeah.
In California, I'm not sure it would have mattered anyway.
Yeah, no, it probably wouldn't.
But that's very illegal. Would you end up voting for the eventual Democrat nominee, even if it was somebody like a Joe Biden, a more moderate guy?
Yes, of course. I'm already canvassing with Bernie Sanders' campaign down in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
I also wanted to ask you, it feels like the media has been blaming Trump for a lot of shootings that have occurred recently. The shootings have occurred throughout a lot of American history, but now it really feels like the media is circling around Trump and really blaming him for some of the shootings that are occurring. Do you think Trump is responsible for these shootings?
Indirectly, yeah. He's garnering so much hate speech, and his base is freaking white racists. That's to be blunt and quite honest, is Trump.
Do you think all Trump supporters are white racists?
I've seen one black person here and 0 Hispanics.
Well, just because they're white doesn't mean they have to be racist, right? Like, you're white.
Yeah, no, not necessarily, but
you think all Trump supporters or most of them are white racists?
I think there's a huge problem with racism that has still, after the civil rights movement, hasn't been addressed. It's
you still think we're just as racist as we were?
I don't think whites realize that they're even racist. And there's an Anglocentrism that is inherent in America, and white people don't even realize it.
Interesting. I wanted to follow up, though, because we said that Trump was in some way responsible for some of these shootings. A lot of progressives have been very aggressive and coarse with their language as well, and we have seen attacks on ICE detention centers and on some officers. Do you think that in any way those progressives are responsible with really heating up and ramping up the rhetoric, too, and potentially being responsible for any of these attacks?
Again, I actually haven't read about I haven't come across news.
So in the past month, there were 2 attacks on ICE facilities.
Really?
One guy tried to firebomb one, and then both were unsuccessful. But would you condemn attacks like that on ICE facilities?
No.
You wouldn't condemn attacks on ICE facilities? No, I wouldn't. Don't you think that's a little bit aggressive? And these are almost police officers, and they should be attacked? That could start a war, and that's too violent. Or how is that political violence going to help us?
It probably won't, but if the right's swinging back, so does the left. I stand with Intifada and hardcore leftist groups.
Do you think we should try to quell down the heat on both sides, though?
Yeah, of course. But I read the Communist Manifesto when I was 11 years old, and...
Do you think Antifa initiates violence at all?
No, I think it stands as a potentially important political armed group for the left, when you have the NRA backing all these...
But the NRA isn't... I guess they're armed in the way they promote gun rights, but they're not armed in the sense where they're in black hats and masks outside on the streets potentially attacking people, right?
No, but those right-wing... there are more right-wing militia groups in the United States. The FBI is all over that. And who stands up for the liberals? it's just
It feels like a lot of people.
yeah. I mean, obviously, violence is never the answer, but
I'm glad we could agree on that part because I don't think either side is responsible. Like, I don't think Trump's rhetoric's responsible for shootings. I don't think any of the progressives' rhetoric is responsible for any shootings. But I think we could quell and calm down all the aggressive rhetoric that is going on. But that's just my 2 cents. In conclusion, was there anything else you wanted to mention?
yeah, there's a theory by Rene Girard called mimetic rivalry, and it kind of goes that two groups that are opposing each other, would work in tandem and then split off, and because they have desires, like if one group starts taking over like the Republicans have, the Democrats will envy that sort of power, and so there becomes a inherent rivalry
With the two-party system.
Okay. And so the theory goes, because it's basically how we break this cycle of having, and Trump basically is a scapegoat. So he acts as when the Democrats, whether we win in 2020 or another 4 years, he will become like the scapegoat, like a sort of catharsis for the Democrats to, even the playing field. So, but it's what the theory suggests is that we should break out of that cycle altogether and work together.
I hope we could do that. Thank you so much for your time, bro. I really appreciate it. Thanks. I see you have a sign over here. It says, "Save our democracy, impeach Trump, and lock him up." The lock him up stuff sounds a little bit reminiscent to the Hillary Clinton stuff that he used to chant. Can you tell me a little bit more about your sign while you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Well, I am definitely echoing his nonsense about Hillary. I do think our democracy is under severe threat, so that's why I save democracy. And impeach him and lock him up. I could go on for an hour about the reasons I think that he should be impeached. I will tell you that I think of all of his many outrages, the worst is his desecration of the environment, his absolute. He's not just failing to do anything, he is actively making matters worse at a time of existential climate crisis and environmental crisis. He
took us out of the Paris Accords, I know, and that was the big thing. One of the big things that made climate activists, I know, understandably very upset. It didn't feel like a lot of people were abiding by that. But is climate change your number one issue going into 2020?
It's certainly among them, but honestly, I don't need to get down to the individual issue level. I think Trump is such a disaster for so many reasons. There's a sign around here that says "Vote blue, no matter who." I have my preferences. Absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah. I'm 70 years old.
Don't look it.
Thank you. I've seen a lot of presidents that I did not admire. They all look great compared to this guy.
Is this the first president that you've ever protested in your 70 years here?
I don't recall that I ever walked around with a sign for anybody else.
I know a lot of people in the media are painting Trump responsible for recent shootings. We have a long history of mass shootings, and there have been some mass shootings recently. There was one in El Paso. Recently, there was one on police officers. Do you think Trump is any way responsible for the shootings that are occurring?
I would stop short of saying he is responsible, but he is certainly not helping. And I think it's clear that he has stoked the flames of bigotry.
Yeah.
I do believe the man is a racist. Go back to his earliest days as a real estate wannabe in New York.
Yeah.
He had to sign a plea agreement, not a plea agreement, but he had to, a consent decree, to, in effect, admitting to having propagated racist policies and renting the Trump properties. Look at what happened with the Central Park Five. Look at his...
I wanted to talk about the gun stuff specifically because as the media says Trump's responsible for those shootings, do you think any progressives or Democrats are responsible for the shootings that we're seeing like on ICE facilities? Should we be trying to quell and calm down the rhetoric on all sides, or are we really just only pointing the finger at Trump and saying he's really starting some violence?
I think we should... It's always good to tamp down violence, and
because we are seeing attacks on ICE facilities now. There are more attacks on police officers, things like that. So if we're going to blame Trump for in any way inciting, attacks against immigrants, should we also point around and say, hey, these people are also strong with the anti-ICE rhetoric?
there's no equivalency there. So I'm no doubt there have been people on the left. This is always true. There are people on all sides who say intemperate things, who behave in ways that I would not agree with, that I might think are not healthy, not helpful. But
Trump's a different league, in your opinion.
The President of the United States standing up, saying the things he says, egging his crowds on, smirking that smug, ugly smirk when they say send her back or shoot them, that sort of thing. That's a different league from people who protest the activities of ICE.
Yeah.
Employees.
Well, here, I just want to put this all in perspective because I agree with you. I think all sides should quell some of the violent talk or aggressive talk. But we have many progressives right now comparing detention centers to the concentration camps. And if you genuinely believe that these detention centers are concentration camps, then it almost makes sense that people are going there and attacking them. So, like, for example, do you think that would be a bad comparison that you wouldn't hold your hat on and agree with?
I would not agree that, and I don't believe anybody has maintained that the detention camps on the border are equivalent to Auschwitz and Birkenau. It's a different level.
But smile hearing it because it doesn't feel like that.
But if you look at the definition of a concentration camp, it doesn't say a Nazi extermination facility. Absolutely. It says a place where a specific group of people is detained.
Absolutely.
And I think it's not helpful rhetoric, but it's understandable. And again, it is not the same thing as Trump talking about Mexican rapists and.
I just had one quick last question. So it feels like we're getting near the 2020 elections. Are we trying to vote Trump out at this point, or are we still trying to impeach him?
I believe the Democrats have a moral responsibility to impeach him. I think that will not result in his leaving office unless people wake up or unless something big breaks.
What do you think your best case for impeachment would be? Just the best one that Congress should pursue? Because the Mueller report, I don't know if you guys want to say it's a dud, but it definitely wasn't enough right now, it seems, to try to get him impeached or proceed with the impeachment process. So what do you think the best thing, the best case is?
The Mueller report absolutely gives you more than enough evidence and ammunition for impeachment. So let's start with obstruction of justice. Mm-hmm. And
you think it didn't start yet because what? There's not enough political will, or why? Why haven't we started? Because the Mueller report came out some time ago. Because there's no action.
The only way you're going to get rid of this guy is with a headshot.
In conclusion, was there anything else you wanted to mention?
God help us.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video, but if you're really enjoying the video, like, share, subscribe, hit me up on my Patreon, my PayPal, support independent media, independent journalism, and enjoy the rest of the show. Can I do an interview? Can I interview you? We're out here for the Trump rally, but you guys are some counter demonstrators.
Absolutely.
Adjacent to us, there are many Trump supporters. Your sign says Orange Lives Matter, and this one says Love is Love, Science is Science, No Human is Illegal, Dump Trump 2020. Tell me a little bit more about why you're out here.
I'm out here for 1,001 reasons. The way this administration's handled everything has just been appalling. And as somebody, I'm a daughter of a World War II veteran, and my father would be absolutely rolling in his grave if he saw the way the country's being divided and the way he's just turning everything into just you're either with me or against me, and if you're against me, you know what? Fuck off. And the way he's treating all the immigrants that are trying to make themselves better. We're all immigrants. We're all from immigrants in here, from this country. And
at this point, are we seeking impeachment, or do we just want to get him voted out in 2020?
I don't think there's time to impeach him. It would be great if the process would start it just so it'd be on the books. But ideally, just vote him out and get somebody with just a hint of empathy in would be wonderful.
Who do you want to see beat him in 2020?
Honestly, I haven't made a decision yet. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm not really behind any particular party. But just I want somebody that will take care of people and not be full of hate, basically.
Because I know you brought up the immigration issue. I'm wondering if more moderate Democrats like Joe Biden would still work for you, just because he was the VP under Obama and Obama was the deporter in chief. So would Joe Biden satisfy your needs for what we're trying to see happen at the southern border?
I honestly, I don't like Biden for a lot of reasons.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So
Would you
that
get
would be
behind any Democrat?
No, not at this point. No. I just think, as far as the immigration thing, the situation at the border with, families getting ripped apart, kids in cages, the awful conditions, that's shit that shouldn't be happening in modern day America under any administration. And the fact that it's happening speaks volumes for where we're heading.
Many Trump supporters, some of these guys, would often say that these policies started under Obama, and they think it's a double standard that we're worried about it now and not when somebody like Obama was president. Do you think that counter argument has any weight here?
I think that there's a lot of work to be done with immigration. Obama didn't do it correctly. Trump isn't. There's room, obviously for improvement everywhere, but where we're heading is just, nothing good.
I have one final question. I feel like there's a lot of aggressive, harsh rhetoric, yes, coming from Trump, but also coming from progressives. So I think I see it coming from both sides. Many people in the media are saying that Trump's responsible for some of the shootings that have occurred recently. Do you think Trump is responsible in any way for those shootings?
In part, yes, I do, because he's feeding the rhetoric of, just hate. I don't know how else to put it, just hate. And he's not helping things with, the gun situation, because the NRA owns our government basically at this point. So, yes, everybody's going to get angry, and when you get angry, it comes out. So.
Because, here's the thing. Would you also hold, liberals and progressives at that standard? Because we have seen 2 attacks now, I believe, on, ICE facilities, and we also have heard very harsh language coming out of progressives. So, would you also hold those people to the same standard?
I think everybody should be held to the same standard no matter what your party. Just be a decent human being.
So, would any progressives be responsible for attacks that we're seeing on ICE facilities because of their aggressive rhetoric towards ICE and what's going on with illegal immigration?
In part, I would say yes. In the same way, unfortunately, that Trump's got a part in it, but anything you say will influence someone else. And if they're open to it, they can take it to another level.
So we're out here today in New Hampshire. Trump's going to be speaking in a few hours. We have anti-Trump protesters behind us. You have a "Don't Tread on Me" flag. This sign says, "Stop trumping on our 2A." Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Well, I'm not anti-Trump necessarily. I like a lot of what he's doing in sense of he wants border control and stuff. The economy looks okay right now. But Second Amendment-wise, calling for red flag laws, wanting to talk about assault weapons bans, that's just not right. That's just, us Second Amendment people have been negotiating our rights away since 1934. We haven't gotten anything in terms of compromise from the other side. It's just been us giving and giving, and it's done. The NRA isn't on our side anymore. Everyone here says, screw the NRA. NRA is the problem. They're not even for us, so I don't know why they're so anti-NRA.
I wanted to ask you, let's say Trump does pass some sort of red flag law in some capacity. Would you end up voting for him in 2020?
Nope. I'd vote for a third party.
Okay.
I'd rather vote third party than go against what I believe in. So.
Do you think Trump's been a strong 2A president? He hasn't really spoken much about it. I know he has appointed a bunch of judges who I believe to be pro Second A, but him and himself, has he been very pro 2A to you in any sense?
Nope, other than his campaigning in 2015, 2016, where he said the 8 years of terror on your Second Amendment are over. We've had more legislation.
It's okay, keep going.
We've had more legislation passed on against the Second Amendment since he's been president than all 8 years of Obama. And Obama wasn't, obviously, he was openly against firearms and such, but Trump said that he was for them, but he's a Democrat. He's been
originally he said he was a Democrat.
He's been back and forth. If you look in his prior voting history, he's been back and forth his whole life. But he's a New Yorker. He's a New Yorker, and he doesn't really understand, he says he doesn't like suppressors at all. He doesn't even know what a suppressor is.
I was going to say, when he talked about these red flag laws, it seemed very off the cuff, and Trump often talks on the cuff. Do you think he was serious about it, or just trying to appease people, because obviously these were coming on the heels of shooting sprees? I'm not going to call them mass shootings.
Yeah, well, see, I'll only vote on action. If he's going to keep talking anti-Second Amendment stuff, but he doesn't do anything...
I don't know if that's still good for I think that's still bad for the Second Amendment, even floating those ideas.
Sure, if he's trying to appease and get a larger voter base, I get that. It's a game. It's just trying to get as many votes as you can. Sometimes you gotta compromise on certain things and try to agree with each side. But If he doesn't actually, like, if Congress got out of recess and they put forward a red flag bill and he signed it, that'd be it for me.
Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. I wanted to pose the question back to you. What did you think about the questions I was able to ask? Let me know down in the comments. If you guys really like the show, like, subscribe. If you guys are able to, hit up my PayPal, hit up my Patreon, support independent media, independent journalism. Until next time, stay barely informed.